$2, we charge $1.50. Is that going to create more traffic going across there to make up the difference and improve the dollar amounts? Since we only have trucks coming across the Veterans Bridge and the Los Indios Bridge, that's something I guess we need to ask ourselves.
Pete, you want to address that? We've talked about this about 2 months ago.
Yeah, we've been discussing the possibility of reducing. As y'all recall, last October when we did the budget, we had an increase on the amounts for each axle. We used to have a standard fee per axle, and then last year we went to a slightly different
Graduated fee on
different level of fees per axle, and so we received, numerous calls from custom brokers and the transportistas from Matamoros. We actually had some meetings with them. To answer your question, yes, and we have run some numbers, and initially wanted to be able to do that for the last half of the year, for this fiscal year, and then we, I guess at a staff level, decided maybe we'd incorporate that into our budget next year. We can start, we can come back with a plan next week, and we can start a gradual decrease, because I wouldn't want to do a one-time reduction, because budget-wise it'd be a big impact to the budget, unless we found other places where we could reduce expenses. But we did like 3 or 4 different plans on lowering the fees for commercial vehicles, and then we'll show the impact to that. So if that is of interest to the court, we can bring back a plan next week.
I think if we can't do that in a vacuum though, we need to know if by reducing that we're going to generate more traffic, or if it's just going to be the same traffic at a lesser rate. If it is, that's not going to help us, obviously. So I guess I'm wondering, are we losing trucks to someplace else, or has things just slowed down in, I'll say, the maquila industry to where not as many trucks are coming across, or is there,
And that's going to be hard to tell. That's going to be hard to tell whether we are or not. Based on the meetings, calls we've had, we have been told that they are utilizing other bridges, west of Cameron County to cross because of the fees, and they keep saying that they keep adding fees, for crossing the bridge. U.S. Customs keeps adding fees, for different manifests that have to be submitted electronically, and at the end of the day, when you add all the fees, it just gets a little bit out of hand for them.
Well, do the other bridges not have the same customs fees?
They do, but they're I'll give you an example. The nearest commercial bridge to us is the Far Reynosa Bridge. They charge $2 per axle. On the high end, we're at about 4 1/4. On the low end, probably 3.75. So we're pretty close to twice as much.
I don't know what the cost of fuel is in Mexico, but when you start factoring in the cost of fuel over here, if it's U.S. trucks buying fuel over here, I think they'd start thinking about whether or not they want to drive an extra 100 miles if their actually destination is to come to Brownsville, but maybe they would.
Pete, I think that you got to continue and proceed how we can do that. The other thing too, see what the impact would be about reducing the passenger vehicles back to $2. You can just look at the numbers, see what it would do, and if it's going to have a big impact. Do you know off the top of your head what the unrestricted reserve fund balance is in the bridge system?
I would have to defer that to Mr. Yates.
Mark, do you know off the top of your head?
3 million.
So, did I hear? I know we talked about this. I've gotten calls and I've met with some of the truckers, and I think what they've said, Commissioner Wood, is that they've reduced the number of crossings because of the price. So, if the price comes down a little bit, we're just not competitive. We're just not competitive.
Yeah, but it does
The
make
only way
sense
we
to
can't be
drive.
competitive is if they go too far, and that's a long way.
Well, but they're doing it.
then they have a 45-minute wait usually at that bridge.
Yeah.
Right.
But they're doing it. They will tell you that they will do it. So
I think we can't do it in a vacuum. We've really got to know what's out there.
We got to know the facts. Because
that's why I want you to
what are
look at
the autos doing? I mean, we had the same
You've got a reduction in auto traffic.
reductions in the crossings for automobiles at all of the bridges.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
people are
and-
just not going back and forth as much.
And I don't know if that had, if the fact on the passport requirement, on the passport requirements had anything to do with that. I know there was a lot of misinformation out there. You know, there probably wasn't a public outreach program, you know, by the U.S. Visit Program, by the Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative coordinator. So that, all that might have been an impact. We didn't have a good spring break either, as David mentioned earlier.
There are reports that give crossing tolls for all crossings in the valley and all crossings across the Rio Grande from El Paso down. My recollection, they do show a slightly downward crossing rate. That information would be very good to provide to you so that we can see general trends and whether our crossings are in sync with the trends or counter to the trends. And that will tell you whether economic activity on the Mexican side is really driving the reduction, or could it possibly be our fees? My recollection on the working capital of the international toll bridge system is that it's well over 100 days, well above our 60 days. So there is some reserves that can be used and can be incorporated in your...
And I'm not suggesting that, okay? All I'm saying is that what I'd like to see is I guess, your best projection as to what the impact would be if we brought the actual rates down a little bit, and the passengers. You know, and we talked about this the other day about building all these bridges. The pie's only so big, you know, and it just, we build another bridge or whatever, doesn't mean that it's going to, you know, we're going to generate the income that we're generating at the Veterans Bridge or the Gateway Bridge. I mean, the pie is only so big, and we're going to reach a saturation point. So just, I'd like to see those projections, but I would not plan on even looking at incorporating them until after we start the budgetary process.
We need to know whether somebody's using other bridges and crossing west of here because of the fee. Now, and if that's the case, then we need to look at what the ratio is.
Pete, what I would do is maybe when we decide to start talking a little bit more in earnest with this, actually invite some of the trucking companies and let them tell us what, you know, why they're going to FAR, if they are going to FAR.
And then we
see what
need to
they're
be
doing.
able to verify that in some form, fashion, or manner.
Right.
I don't know, other than going through the customs brokers and the clearinghouses, that you could verify that. But, Mark, you're right. I think we need to look at the other bridges up and down the river, or up the river, not down the
See
river.
what's going on.
And see what kind of traffic they're having, because we all know that the maquila industry has had some problems, you know, relocations to other parts of the world, and that seems to have turned around now. It seems to have kind of corrected itself somewhat. But if there's just a general downturn in trucking coming across everywhere, we may, you know, then how do we figure out whether or not we're actually losing them to someone west of us, or whether it's just a lower volume of trucking coming across?
We'll work with the Valley Chamber. I know Bill Summers' organization does have some statistics that they keep.
Yeah.
And so I've used those in some of my financial reports. I'll work with Mr. Sepulveda, and we'll provide to you a report of the overall trend.
And I would suggest if the truckers want to come and make some presentation, that they show us some type of documentation that they're shipping their trucks via the FAR Bridge as opposed to Los Indios or Veterans Bridge, and that would come through their documentation on their customs and clearinghouses.
All right.
When you all adopted the budget in '06 for '07, and you adopted the budget for the bridge system, were you all fairly aggressive, or were you using historical information plus a certain anticipated increase?
I typically set the revenues, and I work with Mr. Sepulveda here. I typically use a running 12 months. Now, we do it in July, so I typically have, and we typically update it for July end, but we're estimating August and September. But what I use is August and September of the prior year. So when I set a crossing level, and that's what I initially do, set a crossing level of the number of crossings I'm going to budget, and I'll do that for running 12 months ending July.
For instance, on one, and these pages are not numbered, but I guess when you go to the Gateway International Bridge crossing revenues, and you look at every single month is under budget in terms of the revenue stream. I mean, already for the first 6 months, you know, we're almost $200,000 in a deficit,
Yeah.
okay? So I guess the question was, when the budget was well, the FY '06, that's actual,
Right.
I would assume, right? But when you budgeted, I think you were budgeting 563. I think what you did was you annualized the total revenue on the Gateway Bridge, right, at 563, 333?
Right.
Right?
That's the average, yes.
Okay, you average it out, fine. But then what we're getting here, even, forget about the actual to the budget, even the actual to the actual, from prior year to this year, we're way under as well.
That's not how I conduct the budget on an average basis. I look at the crossings from the prior year, and then I apply the crossing dollars, the toll rate that the Commissioners Court approved. And so if they increase, you know, initially I do my budget based on the existing toll rates. And if the Commissioners Court increases the toll rate, then I typically do it about 95 to 97% of what that rate would increase, because I'm expecting 2 to 3% of attrition based on a higher rate. I'm expecting it's not a one-for-one. If we raise it a quarter on crossing, I'm not going a full 100% of that quarter applied. I'm thinking, well, some people may not spend that extra quarter. We have records on each bridge from 1989 forward. I'll provide that to you on an electronic to your email, and I'll provide a copy to anybody here who wants it. It'll show you crossing rates, and some crossing rates have been very strong in the past, but there has been a 2 to 3% erosion in crossing numbers, it seems like, over the past few years.
Any particular reason that January stands out so much?
In February.
Well, February was 12,000, January was 20,000. I'm talking about Gateway, yeah.
Gateway.
20,000.
Yeah, you know, the only thing we can think of is, you know, normally January is always a slow month, but that might have been the issue with the Western Hemisphere Charter Initiative on the passport requirements. February is a short month, you know, so we lose 2 or 3 days of revenues.
For Mexican holidays.
Yeah, the way he's giving you the analysis here, he's saying every month's equal.
Right.
And that's not the way I do the budget, because I look at historical numbers by each bridge. And I don't normally plug into any increase, because over the last few years, there has been a decrease in actual crossings. The only reason why you see increase in revenue is because the rates have gone up. The rate went up more on a percentage basis than the crossings decreased, so you'll see some nominal rate revenue increase.
Yeah, perhaps we ought to change the monthly average, get the annual amount that's budgeted divided by 365, and then multiply times the number of days in that
Might not
month.
change that much.
I'll provide to Mr. Sepulveda the monthly crossing budget for each, because that's essentially how I do it.
Well, March looks better than the other 2 months
Yeah,
at all the bridges.
spring break.
Right.
And spring break wasn't as heavy as it normally is.
Well, and essentially what he's giving you is how close to the median are we approaching, and, you know, that's useful information. It shows that March is relatively a usual month, although spring break should exceed the median normally, if you'll look at the trends over the past
Historically, yeah.
year.
Well, just as you're developing the budget, keep in mind that if this trend continues, the transfer is going to be significantly affected, which affects the whole budget,
Right.
okay?
On the Los Indios report, bridge report, I don't know if you recall, but last report we made to you all, we noted that the classifications for the Transmigrantes had changed, and so that's why you see a sizable decrease in the percentage. We have them under another category now, which is other, in the second page, and so they're not grouped together with your regular commercial vehicle traffic. They're separate and apart.
They're under other?
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay. But you don't have other on the,
No, I don't. No, we don't. We have that on the second page.
I suggest you put another column on your, it doesn't have a page number, but on the revenue page. to differentiate
On the revenue page or on the bridge crossing page?
on the bottom of the revenue page, or in both, for that matter, because
Okay.
it'll impact both significant amounts.
Wow. Any further discussion? Do I hear a motion to acknowledge the presentation of the second quarterly report for the bridge system? Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 5, presentation of second quarter revenues for the Cameron County Park System.
Judge, Commissioners, on the, hopefully y'all got colored versions of what do you call it, the reports, which shows graphs. But on the Isla Blanca, overall, we had an increase of 82,753 over last year's fiscal year second quarter. And, of course, Andy Bowie, we had also an increase of 10,136. In percentage, that's 14.5% increase over last year's fiscal year. Adolphe Tomé, we had a decrease of about $3,306. Public beaches, for public beach access number 5, we had a decrease of $8,609.50, and then for public beach access number 6, we had a decrease of $2,155. For our community parks, which includes the community center rentals, community center probation donations, and our pools, we had a decrease of $1,275. And then for EK Atwood, we had a decrease of $7,905. Overall, the total for the entire park system was up 53,185, which is 3.8% over last year's second quarter. And what we think of some of the decreases in some of the parks was, especially the coastal parks, was because of Easter fell in March. This year, of course, Easter fell in April. So there was an increase last year in last year's revenues compared to this year's. The other thing that we've heard that some of the Winter Texans have left early, at least a month early from what their original time that they were going to stay. They've left. So some of our RV rentals, like at Andy Bowie and Tomé, of course, is down. At Isla Blanca, we're pretty steady. We're about 1% under last year's occupancy. So, which you compare to 600 sites, it's 6 RVs that left. But we're hoping to increase our revenues, of course, this summer. For June, we're expecting we're going to be about 80% occupancy, and in July and August we should be at 100%. So.
Javier, I think, for instance, with Adolphe Tomé Park, once you do the renovations and some of the work you're going to do, I think that will increase your numbers there.
Correct. And another thing on Tomé, I'm glad you brought that up, because what happened is our exit gate failed, and we've been trying to get bids to try to replace it. And so what's happening is people are just driving in there without going through the entrance, especially after hours. So we're losing a lot of revenues that way. Unless and we're working on it now. We already had the contractor. We've already awarded the bid to a contractor, so he's starting it, matter of fact, today. And hopefully, if we increase, if we get the funding from the state on the additional boat ramp slips there, we feel that it will increase some of the revenues on our boat launching fees. I just had a complaint from this past weekend about a gentleman that was complaining it took him an hour to launch his boat, and he was upset because there was nobody there to control traffic, and there was no parking, and I told him, I said, that's the price to pay. I mean, we're the only public boat ramp out there, so we explained to him that we're hoping to provide 2 more boat slips, so hopefully that'll correct some of the problems and the complaints, deter some of the complaints. This is the first year that I present the reports in this format. And what we try to do is we try to use the bridge systems as a template, and it's a little bit different because of their revenues, how they collect them, and how we collect them. So, if the court has any recommendations or anything that they want to see specifically, we can certainly address for next quarter.
I would like to see on the concession percentages an itemization.
Okay.
Just attach the itemized list so we can look at it.
Do you want to see per concession, or do you want to just see
Per concession.
what it is per month?
Per concession.
Okay.
For the quarter, it
Right.
doesn't matter the month,
Total for the month, that's what you're saying? For the
concession. We need to know where the revenues come from, just so we'll have an idea of what generates, what doesn't generate. Because everything else is itemized there,
Yes.
which is good.
Good report.
Because either I had been asleep for 6 years or I'd never seen one of these before, okay?
Well, what happened
I
is...
think he
what-
just told us that this
Yeah.
is the first time he's done it.
The way we would do it is a little bit different. Before was, I guess, a little bit more complicated.
This is good.
Yeah, it's very good.
Well, we use the bridge system.
Especially your manager's revenue report. I mean, it's very clear, very summarized. But I think as Commissioner Garza, I think that the report on the concessions would be helpful.
You give us information, we want more, right?
Any other questions?
The only other question I would have, and, these are all revenues, okay, right?
Yes.
It'd be nice if we could, and I don't know how much work that would be, but the expense to revenues component, if you take it another step
Okay.
and show us what, our percentage of expenses that we've spent per park, at least in the general category, to give us an idea. I don't know if anybody else would be interested. If not,
I think Mark, didn't you do that? Didn't you give us that recently? I don't remember if the parks were included, but didn't you give us like a 6-month review as of February or 5 months?
Well, I did a 3-month in February on revenues, and I'll give her updated expenditures, I'm working on the revenues actually today.
Did that include the park system?
No, it's not,
You didn't include any of the enterprise funds?
no.
Okay, you might want to consider doing that, if you can.
or at least
We could.
I mean, if you've got that information, just...
Right, we get our monthly encumbrance report, so we could,
I mean, I don't have a problem with a quarterly report. I don't need it
Yeah,
that long.
I think this is great. Now, we don't want to become too bureaucratic to where you're taking all that, but I think that, as the Commissioner mentioned, it's information you have with that.
Well, it also serves as a tool for us as well, as managers, so that we can see where, if we're going over, we can control it. And, with doing these quarterly reports, it also helps find out where, there's any problems occurring, you can address them right away.
Javier, this is a good quarterly report, but it is specifically to that quarter. And if we had had the first quarter somewhere, at least on the totals, we'd know where we are compared to the first half of the year, of this year, as compared to the first half of last year. I'm not saying break each one down, because you've already given us the first quarter report, but now this is the second one. But some kind of total accumulation for so far into the year.
I can email that to y'all, because it's prepared, and what I was going to do is I was going to present it at this time. I just didn't want to add too much information, but I can email it because it's already done, the first quarter, in case, it did come up with.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying, unless someone else wants it, I don't need it for everything, but maybe in the totals area.
Okay.
Summarized.
A little bit more comparative.
Because we've
Right.
seen the first quarter, now this is the second quarter. How do we look for the first half?
I can email that to y'all.
Javier, I have a question. This, on the second page, it shows money donations from Correction Department. What does that refer to?
What this is people that I guess they're whether they get a ticket or whatever, and they go to court, instead of them doing community service, they'll come and they'll pay us as a donation for the park through the courts.
Okay, thank you.
They pay to not play.
Okay. Motion to acknowledge report.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Benavides, to acknowledge report of the second quarter park system. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Item 6. Consent items. Other than item 8, are there any other items that any member of the court would like to discuss separately, either on the consent items or travel items?
Judge,
Yes.
on item number 6, we had emailed the court a modified easement based on comments from Brownsville PUB, so I would ask that you approve it, subject to the changes that were made by PUB. Item number 11, I'd like to pull out of the consent, and items 13, 14, and 15, we need to discuss after executive session.
13?
13, 14,
Okay, so
and 15.
item 11, you want to do what with it?
Just put it out of consent.
Okay, so let's go ahead and pull out item 6. We'll pull out item 6. Item 8's already been voted upon. Item 11,
Table.
you want to table item 11? Or pull it
Just
down?
pull it out of the agenda for
Pull it
discussion.
out altogether.
Okay, we'll pull it out to discuss separately.
Right, and then 13, 14, and 15.
Okay, item 6, dealing with the electrical easement at Carrizales Rucker. Item 11, dealing with the final plat approval for Pelican's Landing Estates. Item 13, dealing with exempting My Health IQ agreement. Item 14, dealing with, also with Health IQ agreement, Mutual Omaha. Item 15, having to do with the HIPAA agreement with Mutual Omaha. Any other item needs to be pulled out. How about on travel? Anything on travel? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the consent items as outlined, with the exception of those that are going to be pulled out to discuss separately, and travel items 20A through 20H? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, seconded by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. 21A, confer with Commissioners Court Legal Counsel concerning management and purchase issues with the International Bridge System on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter pursuant to Code Section 551.0712. Item B, deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcel 1 for right-of-way for the West Rail project pursuant to Code Section 551.072. Item C, confer with Commissioners Court Legal Counsel concerning the settlement with Mutual Omaha pursuant to Code Section 551.0711. And B, item D, confer with Commissioners Court Legal Counsel concerning Roel Gonzalez and Sonia Gonzalez versus Cameron County, Texas, and Jesus Villanueva individually and in his official capacity, civil action number 05-278, for discussion of status of case and settlement pursuant to Code Section 551.0711A. Lastly, deliberation regarding real property concerning the possible concession agreement between Cameron County and Affiliated Management Systems pursuant to Code Section 551.072. Given by Commissioner Gatz, all in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye. We're out of executive session. No discussion on item A. No discussion on item B. and no discussion on item D. Do I hear a motion to acknowledge that no discussion on item A, B, and D occurred?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor, show by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, item carries. Item C, confer with Commissioners Court Legal Counsel concerning settlement with Mutual of Omaha.
I would like to make that motion after legal reads it for us.
Motion should read that we accept the settlement offer, that the letter submitted by Mutual of Omaha, and that as part of that settlement, we approve the issuance of a check in the amount of $31,402.33 as the remaining balance due after they forgive $97,500. And that the motion should include that the Human Resources Director is authorized to sign memorandums of understanding on appeals from denial of coverage.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item E, deliberation regarding real property concerning the possible concession agreement between Cameron County and the affiliated management systems.
Move to acknowledge report from Mr. Mendez.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tamayo to acknowledge Mr. Mendez's report. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 23, budget amendments, line item transfers, and/or salary schedules.
Judge, are you going to take up the consent items that were pulled for?
Well, he's already up. Let's go ahead and take item 23, then we'll go back.
Judge and Commissioners, there was, excuse me, there was just the one sheet and the salary schedules that were emailed to you on Friday. You received them. I don't know if you have any questions.
Move to approve.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Let's go back to the items that were pulled out of the consent. Item 6, consideration approval of granting a 20-foot electrical easement at the Carizales Record Facility to the Brownsville Public Utilities Board.
So I mentioned earlier, Judge, we sent out an email with a revised easement based on the comments from the Brownsville PUB, so we recommend that you approve that.
Was it subject to something? Pete, what was it? Was that the one?
It was a slight modification that PUB requested on the alignment of the easement.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Tamayo. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 11, consideration and authorization for final plat approval for the Pelicans Landing Estates, Phase 1, Precinct 4, a 43.50-acre tract of land being all of Block 100 and 3.5 acres of Block 99 Wilson Tract Subdivision.
Ernest probably has a lot more information, a lot more detail than what I do, but pretty much what this is, there is an issue on this subdivision with the payment of impact fees to the Harlingen Water Works system. The subdivision, as the judge just mentioned, is in the northern end of the county, in the Harlingen area. Cameron County, we operate under the model subdivision rules as is required, and the payments of this impact fees on the model subdivision rules are required to be made up front. The Harlingen Water Works system and cities do not follow the model subdivision rules, and so they allow letters of credit in lieu of payment up front. And so we're caught between the county having to operate under the model subdivision rules and the municipalities, in this case Harlingen Water Works system, that don't have to operate under the model subdivision rules. So the issue is whether or not Commissioners Court will allow the letter, or will allow a letter of credit as a form of payment for the impact fees. You know, it's an issue that we've gone back and forth pretty much the last couple of days with our legal department, with our staff at engineering, Water Development Board, and that's pretty much where we're at. The developer is, I believe, has sent a letter of credit that will cover the amount for those impact fees to the Harlingen Water Works system. But again, the issue is whether or not the county will accept that as a form of payment. because under the model subdivision rules, they require the payment be made up front. And
So this
legal
would
here-
be a variance or an exception to the model subdivision rule. So tell me what the downside would be in allowing the letter of credit to Cameron County.
Well, I think, the Water Development Board has stated that, it's really a local issue, that they do not
what?
see, it's a local issue.
The Water Development Board has been satisfied with the letter of credit.
I believe we have, or not?
No, I
Are they in agreement or not?
think what the Water Development Board has said is it's essentially a local issue to the local public, the subdivision there. They've inquired, apparently I got a letter here from their general counsel that was provided me, and the question was asked at the AG, and the AG wouldn't comment, and they essentially said that as to whether or not a letter of credit would meet the model subdivision rules is a decision that rests entirely with the local subdivision. And Judge, you asked for the downside. The downside of letter of credit is that under the model rules, the scheme of things is, if you pay up front, then any person that purchases a lot knows the meter is paid for. They all have to do is hook up. If you do a letter of credit, it's paid for if it's done within the time frame of the letter of credit. After that, if the letter of credit isn't continued, then there's no guarantee that the impact fees will be paid, that is the meter fees, the connect fees. Now, everything else is in place. That's what you're talking
Which would mean that we would be out of compliance with the model subdivision rules.
No,
If that would occur, if the letter of credit expires and the lots have not been developed with a meter yet, what recourse does that individual that bought the lot have?
you would have to pay the impact fee himself on the lot.
Before he could get a building permit.
Yeah, which is,
And-
So it would be paid.
And I have another question. Have we been doing this for other people, or is this one incident? And-
I think
and we
this
would
is an
be-
isolated incident, I think.
Well,
all
but
the
would
others-
would we be setting a precedent, though?
Yes,
That's my
yes, we
concern.
would.
I think you would. If you accept a letter of credit, then you would pretty much have to do it across the board for any person who's, any subdivider who wants to offer a letter of credit.
And the issues we have apparently is that a lot of the other water supply companies don't have impact fees. If I understand this correctly, the subdivider, the developer, has paid all the other fees, has all the infrastructure in the ground, except for the impact fees that have been imposed by the City of Harlingen Waterworks. Whereas the other water suppliers don't have these type of impact fees. If you talk East Rio Hondo, they've got some fees, but they operate totally different because they do subscribe to the model subdivision rules, whereas the City of Harlingen is probably the only water supplier in the county that doesn't and isn't required to.
And our engineers, how does Mr.
Can some-
Noza feel about this?
Can some type of agreement between Harlingen Waterworks be drafted that would ensure, or at least have them tell us that they would see to it that the letter of credit remain active and enforced throughout the entire development of the subdivision?
Well, they would have to assume that responsibility, that...
I don't think we want to assume that
No,
responsibility.
they would, and they would have to ensure that the letter of credit is renewed annually, until those lots are completely built out or sold out.
And they have the ability to do that, just like we have the ability to see that letters of credit are renewed on septic tanks.
But we'd
Well,
have to have that in writing, Pete,
Yeah.
from there.
Well, yeah, it'd have to be an agreement. Now, David did talk to a gentleman from the Harlingen Waterworks, and he did indicate that he sees a couple of other subdivisions in the same situation, that are going to come down the pike in the future. But again, I think our development board has said it's strictly a local issue. The model subdivision rules are silent on whether or not, letters of credit are allowed as a form of payment.
So everything else that the subdivider or the developer's done has been paid for, as far as putting in the infrastructure. The only thing we're talking about is the impact fee that is being imposed by the water provider.
Yeah, and then the risk that, somebody has to assume that responsibility to ensure that the letter of credit is renewed, or, they draw down on the letter of credit, for the impact fee.
It appears that, from what you've said, they've already made arrangements to issue a letter of credit to Harlingen Water Works, so I'm assuming, maybe assuming wrong, but if they've issued that to them and they've accepted it, then they're assuming that responsibility to see that it's drawn down as it needs to be, or paid for in lieu of being drawn down. And I would think that they would want to, and maybe we need to modify an agreement with them, that they would see to it that the letter of credit stay in force throughout the entire sale of the subdivision.
Well, I don't think we can assume anything. I think we need...
It has to be in writing.
It has to be in writing.
Either in the financial service agreement.
Agreement we have with them.
Yeah, in the financial service agreement between the developer and Harlingen Water Works, a clause needs to be included in there that say that, Harlingen Water Works will ensure that the letter of credit is renewed annually.
What would happen if it weren't renewed?
Well, if it's not renewed, then there's that risk
We'd have a
that
problem.
those number of lots that the impact fee was not paid on, they won't, if they're sold, they'll not be able to get a building permit.
Unless they pay.
Unless they pay, yes.
Yeah, but
But it just paid.
I would be willing to accept it based on that basis, that the clause is included in their agreement, that they keep the letter of credit in force and in effect throughout the sell period of the subdivision.
if that were to default, Mr. Hinojosa or Alex, would we be in violation of the model subdivision rules, and could that create a problem for the county?
We would be.
In plain English?
We're engineers, we're not attorneys, first off the bat, because this is more of a legal issue, and I think, and excuse me if I would just make a couple of comments. I mean, I've been looking at subdivisions for about 8 years on and off, been with the county before and then came back. Alex has been on board maybe a couple of years, but and there's been many issues, many changes, many things that have come through the county, and we always managed to improve the system, as from what I know, and we're at a point where I think we've got very good model rules, subdivision rules and regulations. I think everybody looks to Cameron County as a model, because we do have good regulation. Having said that, this is the first time we encounter a situation like this, and only because in the last maybe year and a half or so, Harlingen Water Works made a change in their contract agreement, and that's one of the issues that we were discussing with council, and Richard and I, and Delvia and Alex, we were there, and Pete, and it's pretty much in black and white. I'm going to call it the way it is, because we adopted the model rules, and specifically in the water contract, that 30-year contract, it says there that the developer will pay up front all services.
That's all I wanted to say.
But again, that just, I know, but...
I know, and I think...
And that's what we're looking at now. Something can be done besides that, and that's the court's option. But I'm going to say whatever the legal counsel recommends, we don't have a problem.
And I would suggest that we accept the letter of credit in lieu of payment up front, because I think when these were done, just quite a few years ago, there probably weren't any impact fees, or if they were, they were minimal. Today, in Harlingen, instead of being a $400 impact fee on a lot, it's $2,100. And so if you're developing, a lot of lots, it's a big chunk of money up front, which a letter of credit guarantees that, as long as it's kept in force. And I think that the Harlingen Water Works would have the ability to see to it that they keep the letter of credit in force, like we do on septic tanks.
Let me,
What it can do is, it can stymie development and growth in that area. It won't in other areas where East Rio Hondo or Military Highway Water Supply or Omito or El Jardín, even though, you know, they have impact fees also, they call them connection fees as opposed to impact fees. They're not going to, you know, you're not going to see some growth in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of Harlingen, where Harlingen Water Works has the right to serve, or they're certified to serve.
Well, that's a choice they make when they adopt those rules, though.
Well, they didn't adopt them, see, that's, if they'd adopted model subdivision rules.
No, they adopted their rules.
Their own.
They gotta have some kind of rule to be able to...
That's correct. But they adopted those long before they had $2,100 impact fees. Then they adopted the $2,100 impact fees, which throws a monkey wrench into lots of people's ability to do developments.
They made that change a year and a half ago, though.
I think this subdivision has been under construction. From what I understand, it's fairly large, 190-some lots.
It's huge, it's huge.
Takes a long time to build one.
I just don't want to assume anything. I'd want to see it in writing from the Harlingen Water Works, that they will follow what we're asking.
Well, I'd be willing to make a motion to accept the letter of credit contingent on Harlingen Water Works guaranteeing that they would keep the letter of credit in an active status.
And be accountable.
I think we need to have an agreement with Harlingen Water Works.
I spoke to the gentleman from Harlingen Water Works this afternoon. He was going to come to the meeting, but we were still in discussions up to the beginning of the meeting, so he mentioned to me that he was, you know, they'd look at any interlocal that the county would present to Harlingen and see.
Why don't we, if y'all don't mind, maybe, Commissioner, you may want to amend your motion to maybe table this item for a week. Why don't you try to work it out with Harlingen Water Works, see if we need to drop an interlocal with them regarding, I think the issue is if this letter of credit expires and we're not told about it, then we might have some issues. But I think once we go down this path, then we need to stay, you know, consistent with anybody that wants to come by and have a similar, you know, a similar situation, that we're going to have to do the same thing with them. So...
And that we follow the same process.
Yeah, and I would much rather, instead of doing it a subject to something like this, just, you know, if we can table it, give you all the opportunity to go back and work with Harlingen Water Works, come back with an agreement with them that's secure for us, and then we can approve without any subject tos. But that's, you know, if you want to...
Well, I don't have a second, so it's going to die.
Move the table.
Yeah, second.
Okay. With that understanding then?
Yes.
Okay.
That they'll be brought back to us as
bringing
soon
it
as
back
you can
to us.
resolve something with Harlingen.
Okay, there's a move by
Water Works.
Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo, to table this item, hopefully within a week, to come back with us, or a week or 2 weeks, and come back with us so we can approve this subdivision. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I just have one question. You know, this just came up now. I mean, this is final plat approval. We go through the preliminary process, we go through all the process, and at the final stage of the game, this comes up.
Yeah, I just found out about a little bit over a week ago. I don't know if Veronica...
I mean, the law changed a year and a half ago.
I think the final plat's been in engineering since January. He finished the construction on the subdivision in December. It took him over a year and a half to construct the subdivision.
Right.
Which is not abnormal. So we've been about 90 days trying to figure out how to do this, apparently.
Yeah, but they knew about the issue on having to pay impact fees from when they started developing the subdivision. You know, I mean, any developer in the west end of Harlingen knows about the impact fees.
Yes, sir. I think the only thing that brought this to the point where now it needs to be decided is that the 30-year contract agreement normally is done at the very end of the final punch list or list of things that need to be approved. Once that contract was given, or Harlingen Water Works has looked at it, and I don't know if the engineer knew that maybe they should have done it a year ago, but when they presented that 30-year contract, we told them as one of the items that need to be the checklist. And that's where he started. When that agreement went to Harlingen Waterworks, there was not an agreement, so that's, and it's only been the last.
Yeah.
We have
Thank you.
a motion.
All right. We have
The
a
only
motion.
thing is that, Judge, we have to realize that anyone else coming before you is going to have to, we have to follow the same process.
Right. All right. That was item 11, that passed. Item 13, consideration and possible action of order number 2007-04011, exempting My Health IQ agreement pursuant to Local Government Code Section 262.024. Richard?
Judge, items 13, 14, and 15 really, you could take as a consent item what these are. 13 is an order exempting the Health IQ service from the Competitive Bidding Act as a health item. Item number 14 is the actual contract itself, and item 15 is a HIPAA Business Association agreement that we're required. It has no monetary implication. It
Okay.
has.
So then do I hear a motion on items 13, 14, and 15 to approve? Moved by Commissioner Gatsa. Do I hear a second by Commissioner Tamayo? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Item 24, approval of minutes for February the 20th, 2007, February 27th, 2007, March 6th, 2007. Do I hear a motion to approve? Moved by Commissioner Tamayo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Benavides. Just please note on the February 27th meeting, I was not here, so just put me absent. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Approval of county claims. Do I hear a motion to approve county claims with the additionals as presented by our county auditor?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 26, discussion and possible action on temporary contract negotiations regarding the performance of autopsies for Cameron County. Pete, that's yours, I think.
Well, there's
David.
everybody got the email from Dilbia.
Right.
Yeah, that's item 29 and 30.
No, I'm on item 26.
26. I think it's David.
Is that yours, Dave?
Well, that's all of us.
I can get an update. The last time, Dr. Salinas
Yeah.
sent in his proposal, where I think we are on the situation, I think we're gonna go ahead and engage, well, I don't know if we're gonna engage, but we have a proposal from Valley Baptist, which is one of the agenda items that we also have.
Right.
But we also have a letter from Valley Baptist stating that they're giving us 90 days.
Right.
And so I think what we're probably gonna have to do is figure out, another agreement with Valley Baptist to use Dr. Salinas either in that area or the area that Dr. Salinas uses, since he's the only proposal that we have.
The agreement that we have with Valley Baptist is not specific for a pathologist.
No.
Which means that,
Yeah.
and they have said that they did not have, it didn't matter to them who used their facility. They did not have a problem if we brought in someone to do
Correct,
that.
that's my understanding as well.
So then what we have there is, except for some grammatical changes,
Well, I think it allows itself, right, Dilbia? It allows us,
On 29 is the agreement with Valley Baptist. They will allow us the use of the morgue and their equipment, regardless of who performs the actual autopsy. So that agreement just states for a monthly sum, I think it's $267, we will be allowed to use their facilities. The next agreement, I think it's 30, is the actual agreement with the pathologist to perform the autopsies, and that's the agreement that is only in play for 90 days.
the other agreement is not.
The other agreement
It's
will
open-ended.
continue on until, if we
Okay.
switch people to do the autopsies, they will still be able to use the facilities at Valley Baptist.
Okay, and I'll just look to the court for guidance on those.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, just as a point of information, I have scheduling a meeting with Judge Salinas from Hidalgo County, Judge Vera from Star, and Judge Barnhart from Willacy to talk about some regional issues.
Salinas from there?
J.D. Salinas, yeah. And one of the issues we're going to talk about is a regional morgue. So that's going to come up, so just to let you all know, and I will report to y'all if anything happens.
Regional morgue or medical examiner?
Well, you're talking about regional board / medical examiner.
Yeah.
Okay, just to give you all a heads up.
Yeah, we need to move in that direction.
Okay, do I hear a motion then to approve items 26, which was temporary contract negotiations, item 29, consideration approval agreement with Valley Baptist Health System to provide facilities for autopsies, and item 30, consideration possible approval of agreement with Pathology Associates to provide autopsies. Do I hear a motion on those three items? Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Tamayo. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Item 27, discussion possible action on holding additional auction on May the 12th, 2007 to sell forfeited equipment. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Do you have something to say, Mark?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 28, consideration authorization to contract with Indigent Healthcare Solutions to provide a subscription software service to manage the medical claims of jail inmates, make payments at the Medicaid rates, and provide online security eligibility process that gives providers notice of authorization. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Benavides. Any discussion? Any discussion?
Question on that. On the cost of the program, I see that the marshal's office is willing to provide a certain amount. Is that based on the percentage of inmates that are at the jail, or is that
No,
based?
that's based on a concurrent user of the software. The software provides so many dollars per a user, and so what Mike Leonard has negotiated is that they will pay for one cost of a user license.
Okay. That's fine. That's all I had.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 31, consideration possible approval of contract number 2007 CO or C04077 with Reef and Associates for consulting services for the design and evaluation of requests for proposals for Cameron County self-funded health plan claim administration, stop loss, aggregate stop loss, preferred provider administrative service, and employee assistance program. Do I hear a motion for approval? That's, Delbia, you've looked at this contract, everything's all right?
Yes, sir.
Well, where'd you go?
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item 32, consideration possible action regarding the county's legislative agenda for the 80th legislative session.
Judge, Commissioners, we will be in Austin tomorrow for testimony on House Bill 573, legislation authored by Representative Gonzalez. That's a colonial lighting bill that allows unincorporated areas of the county, the citizens that are in those areas, to enter into agreements with private entities, providers, to provide colonial lighting and set up a structure that will allow them to pay for the lighting. And so we're going to be over there tomorrow. She's requested Cameron County to go testify, and we sent you an email, and we prepared some testimony on behalf of the Commissioner's Court.
That's excellent.
You know, in regards to the lighting, and I know that, Jose and Alex left, Ernest, but there's no way that a requirement can be made. John, I don't know, you probably know more about this than I do. We have the subdivisions that are developing out there, and lighting becomes an issue, and then rests on us to solve the problem. Is there any way or anything that we could somehow legislatively have in place to address that issue? Require? I mean, they require water, they require septic systems. These are like health and safety code issues, and lighting is another one.
Nothing that I know of, and we don't have the ability to make ordinances. And then
That's the key.
Inside incorporated areas, of course, they pay for the street lighting in subdivisions as part of their ongoing expense, and comes from tax dollars. Of course, the incorporated areas have a higher tax rate than we do. The only issue, there are a few subdivisions that are going up that are gated communities, so they control and they're responsible for their streets, and some of those are putting in lighting. And they have the ability to create homeowners associations to pay for the upkeep, maintenance, the lighting, all these other things. But the general subdivision that is not inside the city limits, I don't know of any way we would have to create something to require them to pay, especially in areas where they have, a resident has a choice of who provides the electric service to their house. So it's not even something that could be charged among everyone because there's only one electric provider.
So it's
It gets to be real complicated.
Because it's, I know I have a subdivisions going up directly across from where I live.
Yeah.
It's a large subdivision, and everything is going up, but no lights.
No lights, yeah.
At night, I don't know how they're gonna know where to turn, for that matter.
What some people have done
Turn on your
in
porch light, it'll light up
Yeah.
everything.
No.
In Brownsville, in the Brownsville area, I know when Cardenas develops a subdivision, he requests the city annex that area. He puts in lighting, street lighting according to the city subdivision rules. Of course, then once it's finished, the city's responsible for those lightings, but they also get the ad valorem tax off of it. And that's the
Which
way
makes sense.
some people do, yeah, it does.
But it creates a real problem for us, because every subdivision being developed outside of the city's ETJs has no lights.
I've got a subdivision that used to have a sewer package plant and lighting, and the developer required everyone in the subdivision, there are 72 houses, to pay to him so much a month to maintain the sewer treatment plant and the lighting. He has passed away, his wife has passed away, the heirs are in Mexico, the lights are not on anymore, because no one's paying to anyone to pay for that bill.
Well, I had a situation where a group of residents came from a certain subdivision in my precinct, and the developer had put up lights, and so they came to us, and they thought the county would pay for the electricity bill. And so I said, you've got to go to your developer with this. So it does create a problem, and there's a multitude of different scenarios.
You're
But,
referring to the St. Isasi?
Yes, St. Francis of Assisi. There are subdivisions, as an example, that have taken place here in Brownsville in the past years. Lakeway, for one, which is a nice subdivision. The developers they didn't create a homeowners association that you're required to be a member of, because homeowners associations have the ability to bill you each month.
Right.
And if you don't pay, they can put a lien on your property, and if you don't pay, they can sell it. But that subdivision didn't have it. The two developers that developed it, as long as it was outside the city of Brownsville, they had kind of a volunteer thing for the people who live there to give them so much a month for street lighting. Well, that volunteer thing dwindled and dwindled and dwindled to where maybe 15-20% of the people were paying, but the developers in that case, being the honorable people they are and were, continued to pay for the lighting until it was annexed by the city. And that's the city's responsibility.
So each situation.
Yeah,
I have one subdivision in my area that is, they have a homeowners association, and they pay their alleys, they upkeep, of course, they don't think we keep the roads up as the way that we should, and we try, but they maintain lights and streets.
If it's
alleys.
and if it's a real homeowners association where that association has the power to put liens and levy on property and foreclose, then people pay.
Did you have something else?
Just wanted to mention a bill that was brought to our attention. Senator Hinojosa has Senate Bill 1549, and it makes some changes to health service districts. I guess in the amount of funding that a county that is part of a health service district provides to that particular district. It changes the percentage and providing greater flexibility to counties in contributing funds to a health service district. It also changes the board makeup, allowing for the Commissioners Court to make the nominations for the board of directors within that county as opposed to the county judge. So we're going to follow this legislation, talk to Senator Hinojosa's office and see what...
There's a hearing on Thursday morning.
The 19th, right?
Are you be able to be there?
We should, yes, sir.
Are you presenting, I'm supposed to sign a letter for y'all?
We're going to draft the letter as soon as I get all the points in order that we need. we'll draft a letter and with all the, all the
Is this
points.
also the same bill where it's creating the one county district?
Yeah, I think he's supposed to submit, an amendment that would allow a one-county district.
Yeah, currently, I don't believe that it does that in this legislation, but
All right.
that's it,
Anything else, David?
that's it.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to acknowledge Mr. Garcia's report? Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Wood. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, item carries. Item 33, discussion and possible action regarding the county's federal legislative agenda.
We don't have anything at this
Okay.
time.
Move to table by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, item carries. Item 34, consideration approval for the Cameron County Constables Precinct 2 and Precinct 6 to participate in Operation Stone Garden. Do I hear a motion?
Commissioner,
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa,
Judge,
second by Commissioner Wood. Discussion.
we've been asked to table this by the constable till next week.
Okay, do I hear a motion to table?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Tamayo, second by...
rescind my motion.
Thank you. By Commissioner Gatsa. By Commissioner Wood. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carried. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, seconded by Commissioner Tamayo to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, item carries. God save this honorable court.